This is TAZA, a knowledge series brought to you by Alliance for Coffee Excellence and Cup of Excellence.
On all of our calls, I've always wanted to ask, can you just show me what you're around? It seems like it's very pretty.
Yeah, let me. I'm on my lanai, or what we kind of call a patio. This is.
Wow.
I mean, that you can't probably see it there, but that's the ocean, just beyond the trees ahead.
Oh my God.
So,
Oh.
yeah, Craig has an equally, or if not better, view than I do.
Wow.
On the farm. So I mean, I'm in town here in Hilo. He's on the other side of the island, but it's always nice on the farm.
Oh, that looks amazing. I'm totally jealous.
So yeah, it's a little bit better Zoom background than a lot of people's offices.
I would say so. Yeah. Normally this time of year, like for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been lucky enough to in February, March, get to go to Guatemala and Central America. But because of COVID, it's been a year since I've done that. So it's been my first year with just the Oregon winter in a long time. And I woke up today and it was raining sideways and 42 degrees. And I'm just at this point where I'm I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I can understand that. I've been stuck here for a year. It's the first time I can't remember any time in my life I haven't traveled for a year. But I'm not a bad place to be.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're
enjoyable? I'm here with my family. I'm busy. There's plenty of stuff to do on the farms. So it's been good.
Do you feel like you get any of that island fever or crampedness there, or is it just life is normal?
I used to a lot more. I mean, I'm so busy with a 3-year-old daughter that just don't have time to even think like that. I used to travel 3 months of the year, so it never really, I was always happy to be home. But yeah, I mean, I got plenty going on here. So and it's a big island. It's we're not a tiny place. It takes 5-6 hours to do a loop around the island. So there's a lot of different environments. So you don't really get too stir crazy.
Yeah, I went to Hilo and Kona once on a school trip when I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
And my recollections were I cut my foot open in the water on some lava, and got stitches and couldn't go swimming. And then we went, and that was on the Hilo side when we landed, and then went over to the Kona side. What was that?
The rocks are sharp.
Turns out wear sandals.
At minimum. I wear water shoes when I'm walking on the rocks always, but.
Hello.
Is it working?
Yep.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Craig. How are you?
Very good. Tried to get on my computer, and for some reason it wouldn't sync. So Catherine here has helped let me.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
Oh, you know Alex?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
We Kat Melheim, Coffee People.
Oh, hey. Oh my God. How long has Kat been in Hawaii?
Huh?
How long have you been in Hawaii?
2 months now.
Okay.
I've been over at Craig's for probably a month and a half.
I am clearly out of touch.
That's all right. I've posted a little bit about it, but not a ton.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, see you.
I was just telling Miguel, I'm so jealous of your guys' natural Zoom backgrounds.
Right?
Pretty over the Oregon winter right now. So that just looks wow. Amazing. Wow.
A little hazy over here, but you can see the ocean out there.
Wow. Totally jealous. Once this is all over, I'm definitely coming and visiting y'all.
Yeah. No, you're welcome anytime.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, so we'll get this going. Thank you both for taking the time to sit down with me. If Craig, this is my first time meeting you, but so I'll just introduce myself. I lead the education programs for the Alliance for Coffee Excellence. In non-COVID times, I kind of travel all over the world and teach classes for people who want to learn how to cup and evaluate coffee. Since COVID, I've been focusing on the private collection auctions with Darren, which is a new venture for us. And, I was super excited to learn last year that we were going to be doing a event with Isla Custom Coffees in Hawaii. Being from America, I feel like we always kind of forget that like Hawaiian coffee is there, but it's exciting. And it's something that when I do travel, especially in like China and Japan and Korea and Thailand, people are always very curious about Hawaiian coffees. So it was really great to be a part of this event as a judge and to taste all these amazing coffees and score them. And so, yeah, I guess you are the first Hawaiian coffee farmer that I've ever talked with. I guess, well, Miguel, you're a farmer as well, right?
No, I'm you could say a processor, and I aid farmers, but I don't I'm directly a farmer myself.
Okay. And Craig, you are most definitely a farmer.
Yeah, I've been farming coffee here for 27 years now.
Wow. And can you tell me, like, how did you get started in that? Like, what an amazing life path to go on.
Yeah, about 28 years ago, we purchased a 8-acre piece of land, my family and my in-laws at the time. And we built a couple houses to live on together and keep the family together. But we had all this land, and it's like, well, gosh, what do we grow? We got to grow something on all this land.
Mm-hmm.
Papayas, pineapples, avocados, mac nuts, coffee. Yeah, Kona coffee's cool. Let's try that. So it started as a hobby and a fascination. We planted about 5 acres of coffee, and then about 3 years later, after it started producing, we entered the cupping competition, and just luck of the draw, we won first place in the local cupping competition.
Wow.
The Coffee Cultural Festival. And so that just got us really excited about it. And then we purchased the surrounding land on either side of our farm and expanded. And it's grown in from a fascination to an obsession over the years.
Wow, that's amazing. So you started at 8 acres. What are you guys at now?
Well, actually, we sold that farm back in 2006. And then now I'm down on a 4.7 acre parcel.
Okay, cool. And can you tell us
now?
What was that? Sorry.
Life is a lot simpler now. We had almost 30 acres we were farming before, and it was wonderful, but it was a lot of work and a lot of stress at times.
Yeah.
We've downsized, and now we're focused more on quality and more recently the specialty varietals and processing and so forth. Yeah.
What markets do you guys normally sell to?
We used to wholesale all of our coffee, and over the years, we've always had a website, and we've grown our clientele enough where now we're retailing everything on our website, konafarmdirect.com.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So Alex, that's what makes the Hawaiian coffee quite different, is because we don't have the import restrictions with the the U.S. market. A lot of farmers are going to sell direct retail to get the most value out of it. And certainly those farmers that do specialty or put in the extra effort to make, excellent coffees or invest in other varieties are the most likely ones to be, trying to maximize their value, which is why, although these coffees exist, they've never been available to the green market before.
Huh. Interesting. So all of the majority of the coffee that you guys are producing, you are roasting and then sending out.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. What do you guys roast on?
2 Dietrich roasters. I have a little 7-pound Dietrich and then a larger 12 kilo or 25-pound Dietrich. So yeah,
super cool.
We roast our own. My wife roasts probably 5 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah, when people order it, we fresh roast it and then coordinate with FedEx and ship it out. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, fresh roasted coffee.
Yeah, and I mean, how that's so, like you were saying, that's so unique in the coffee world to get your coffee roasted by the person who grew the coffee.
Yeah,
super special.
we're able to do, so it's fun.
Miguel, can you tell us like how like you got into coffee and like your role in this process?
Well, I've been in coffee for most of my adult life. I started taking an interest in coffee when I was 13, started working at coffee shops as soon as I turned 16, and then started a roasting company, Paradise Coffee Roasters, with my family when I was 19. And after doing that for several years, I wanted to really understand the origin side a lot better, and came across an opportunity to help with a farm called Hula Daddy in Kona around 2008, and then moved out here to do work with them, and then on the weekends helping out with a young region called Kau to the south of there. And I've been working with farms here, and then kind of taking what I've learned in terms of processing quality, and teaching farmers in other parts of the world how to make better coffee.
Cool, that's amazing. And I have to ask, were you part of American Idol?
No, I was never that. There was a local local karaoke competition called Hawaiian Idol that I did participate in like 12 years ago. But
neat.
So yeah, I mean, karaoke, and pre-COVID, karaoke was a frequent hobby of mine. It's about the most unfriendly thing to do in this era. The other thing I like to dance Argentine tango, very close. Also can't do that. So
wow. Yeah, I feel like there's been like, I've heard people talk about you in the coffee industry, and I feel like people have been like, he was on American Idol. So
no, definitely not.
Okay, but
we've thrown some great karaoke parties in Seattle and other SCA events over the years. Okay,
maybe it's just your coffee karaoke party reputation precedes you. So Craig, you had 3 coffees in the Isla event, I believe.
Yeah, one that we entered, and then I participated with help Miguel process some of his, but I did also grow those coffees. Yes, not on my farm, but in other farms that I take care of.
But you grew and produced the winning lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit just about that coffee, and like what, obviously like tasting it was a very special coffee. It was very nuanced, very complex. It had like, I was looking at my tasting notes of it, and it had this like beautiful kind of like blueberry hibiscus flavor profile going on, but without being like fake or it was very natural. It reminded me of some of the better like Ethiopian coffees that I've tasted in my lifetime. So can you tell us a little bit about like the processing of the coffee, and what your process and your method, I guess, to create this coffee was?
Yeah. So for years we've been doing a conventional washed method. We pulp the coffee, and then would let it ferment overnight with just the natural yeast, rinse it thoroughly and so forth, just the way we've always done it. Makes a good, solid, clean, smooth cup of coffee, Kona coffee. So we've been learning more about yeasting and other processes, probably in the last 5 years for me. And then Miguel and other farmers over here, in particular Hula Daddy Coffee, they've been real innovative in experimenting with new methods and new different yeasts. And we're good friends with Hula Daddy also, the owners there. And they've shared with us the different yeasts and different processes. So I started experimenting with it. But the varietal that we're growing, the SL34, the Kenyan coffee, Hula Daddy had done real well with it in years past. So they shared the seeds with us about 5 years ago. We grew them up, and then in our nursery, and then planted them. We cleared out maybe 1 acre of our land and replanted it with the new varietals. And we knew it was going to be a good coffee because we tasted it from Hula Daddy. But then we tried extended ferment, a 48-hour ferment versus just overnight. And then Miguel encouraged us to experiment with a different type of yeast. And so I kind of took his advice, took a gamble, and processed all of last year's coffee from the SL trees with that method. And lo and behold, we nailed it on that. So we're very fortunate and blessed that way.
Wow, interesting.
Good coffee on and of itself, but with the yeast and the extended ferment, it really amped up the acidity and added those wonderful fruity tones to it.
Can you just like so what would be what would be an example of like a normal fermentation process versus the extended fermentation process?
So the normal, the way that most farmers do it here, it's the conventional washed method. You would pulp the cherry, the beans fall into a vat or a big tub of sorts, and then you just let it ferment. You put a nominal amount of water to just cover it. The natural yeast would begin to break down the fruity film or the mucilage on the beans. So usually that's anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. And then the next day we would rinse the coffee thoroughly and then put it out on the deck to dry. So that's a conventional method. The extended one that Hula Daddy had taught me how to do was to pitch the yeast in it and just let it set with no water for 48 hours. And then we would rinse it, not only just blast it off with the hose, but we would rinse it like that. And then we would fill the tub with water, let it set overnight to make sure all the mucilage was out, even in the split of the beans and so forth. Rinse it better, much more thoroughly. So it's an extended ferment and an extra overnight rinse or soak to rinse it. Comes much cleaner that way.
And then after that process, do you lay it out to dry? Like,
we put it out on the deck to dry. We don't have a very large drying deck, so we let it dry in the sun for at least one day. But many times during the season, we have more coffee coming in the next day. So we have mechanical dryers that I built. And we utilize a household furnace like you have in the basement of your house to blow warm air, about 115-degree air through the beans. And we can dry the parchment in about 24 hours versus a whole week that it would take to sun dry it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the design for like homemade mechanical dryers? That's amazing.
Well, in years past, I've helped design other mills, wet mills and drying facilities for coffee here. I'm kind of a consultant here in Kona also. But we usually buy the larger equipment from Colombia, either Estrada or Panagos, or so there's others. But they're much larger than most small farmers need. They're just too expensive or actually too large. You need a lot of coffee to make it efficient. So I've taken that technology and manufactured a vertical dryer with 2 layers in it. And it's a 4-foot diameter and 4-foot tall. And we blow the warm air up through the coffee. So we can do 2 days worth of 2 batches with the same energy going through the 2 batches.
Wow.
I'd like to show it to you, but I'd lose my Wi-Fi if I walk out.
Well, like I said, I'm definitely coming to Hawaii and visiting you guys. So I look forward to that. And we'll definitely do like an Instagram live when I'm there and video. You should get Kat to do a story about it. Like, that's super cool. And I feel like
she's a lot of footage already, and she's going to work on that. She's been working feverishly the last couple of weeks on putting together her next magazine, or what do you call it? Forgive me. Yeah, the Coffee People magazine. So she finally got that done. But later on, she'll be able to put a little documentary together. We'd like to do it about Kona coffee in general. And then, of course, we'd like to be laced through that whole story as well.
Yeah.
Oh, here she comes.
I'm taking over the Coffee Roasters Guild Instagram on Monday. So there'll be, go watch Coffee Roasters Guild stories on Monday.
Okay. Show us those dryers. I
will. I for sure will.
So can you guys tell me a little bit about like the yeast and how you selected it? Because I know like a couple years ago we had a student come through Portland for one of the classes I teach, and his name was Sam, and he worked with a university in Hawaii, and he brought all these like super interesting samples. So can you maybe like touch on like when I think of yeast and coffee, like ever since meeting this person, like I think of Hawaii, and like it seems like you guys are really innovating with this. So can you touch on like how this got started in Hawaii, and then also the yeasts that you use?
Yeah, I'm not sure who the first was to do in Hawaii, but we have various farmers that have been working with mostly wine yeast strains for, I would say, at least 5 years now. In our local cupping competition with the Hawaii Coffee Association, I believe it was 3 years ago, a small farmer in Maui won that competition by a significant margin with a yeast fermented coffee. And then the following year, I believe the coffee, most of the top three also were utilizing yeasts. So there's been a history of it. The first coffees that I tasted fermented with yeast were actually some experiments that our friends were doing in Thailand, just adding them to just traditional wet ferments they were doing, and they showed positive results. So had a couple farms do some trials here, and there were definitely some moderate improvements, not huge at that time. But there's been a lot of people trialing things with some success. And then, at some point in the last couple of years, especially after the Lal Cafe products were introduced and were claiming much, much larger gains than we had seen with coffee before, started looking into doing a lot more research to see just how far we could push things.
Oh, interesting. And what about how when you're creating like a lot, when you guys are like working with the yeast to create like lots of coffee, how do you go about selecting like the right type of yeast to make a coffee?
Trial and error. Over the past from 2020, basically from January until July, I did about 150 different trials. So every single round of harvest would do 8 to 10 experiments on coffee, varying both types of yeast strains used, application of the yeast, fermentation times, etc. Every variable that you can think of. So some of the yeasts have pretty consistent results coffee to coffee, but others can be very variable depending on the site location and or the variety. So also each variety, what works well for Typica may not work as well for Katura, Katuai, Geisha, SL34. So like anything with coffees, like you have some general ideas what might work well, but trial and error is really the only way to maximize your results.
Mm-hmm. So in particular, like it seems in all the information that I've read about what you're doing that you guys use wine yeasts. Do you exclusively use wine yeast, or are there any do you create yeasts on your farm and from your own coffees that you would use?
No, none of them are selected from the local environment. They're all commercial wine yeast strains.
Interesting. And French wine, or how, I guess I'm trying to get to why wine yeast? What makes wine yeast particularly good for this process?
I don't necessarily have an answer to that, other than, the first strains that we were trying or we saw people try were wine yeast, probably because they were very easily available on the internet in small quantities to trial in. And there's hundreds and hundreds of them to try. So, I've tasted, maybe about 2 to 3 dozen at this point, somewhere around 30, and always trialing more all the time. But I think also because, kind of coffee is a fruit, or similar to a grape, it probably is a little bit better suited than, say, beer yeast or baking yeast. Not to say that those yeast, there might be strains that have very positive results. There are some types of beer yeast that I'm interested in trying to create certain types of flavors, but still have 100 other things that I want to trial as well. So it's haven't done it yet.
Yeah, it sounds like a massive, it's yeast, it's bacteria. It seems like such a rabbit hole to dive into. You could really go crazy.
Yeah, even one strain, just because you had a bad result, you may have not used it in the most optimal way. The temperature or the length of time you fermented at might highly affect your results, or the variety and just the you might say that the base material, the quality of the cherry might affect your results too. So just because something gives a bad result doesn't mean under other conditions, it could potentially give a great result.
Interesting.
But it's really heavily researched in coffee as of yet, other than some limited research out of Brazil that's been going on with yeast that they've selected locally from, that is occurring in their natural environment. But they do find, very large differences in cup quality with different strains of yeast that they've selected.
So are you guys working with like the University of Hawaii or these people in Brazil, or are you just totally like pioneering and just trying and learning as you go?
A lot of it is just trial and error. I mean, there's published papers from Brazil that you can look at. I've never talked to anybody doing that research out there, but a lot of it is just testing. Create a theory, test it, and then refine, test it again, keep trying new things.
And so like, I think it is super interesting that like you guys are doing this and it's so pioneering. And it must also be really interesting because you guys have, you're selling direct to consumer. How have since you guys have been working on these experiments and creating these lots and using yeast, what has the feedback that you've gotten from normal coffee drinkers that you're selling coffee to? What do they think of it?
Craig, do you have any comments?
It's relatively new for us, the whole yeasting process. We dabbled in it last season, or the season before this last one. So we don't really have, I think we do have one product, our K7. We call it the sweet spot because it's a little sweeter than normal. But we haven't released our SL on our website yet this year. The K7 we do, it's cups exceptional also, but SL's a lot better. We're waiting after the results of the auction to go ahead and release it.
Okay.
I mean, the extra coffee that we have other than the award-winning lot.
Of course.
Yeah.
If people wanted to buy a bag of your roasted beans, where can they go to buy it?
KonaFarmDirect.com.
Okay.
And SL is not on there currently. Again, we're waiting till after the March 25th date, and then it'll be available.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see where that coffee goes.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be very popular.
Yeah. One thing also that really, Miguel's got the cat there. That's great. So another thing that really influences the quality and the cup is the picking, the harvesting. So it's been a real dilemma here. We pay our workers by the pound to pick the coffee. So some crews get real greedy and they'll pick not only the red cherry, but they'll be putting a lot of the green or underripes in the basket. Or if you wait too long, you get too many overripes. That really can adversely affect the quality of the coffee. So it's an ongoing struggle. We're always encouraging or getting angry with the pickers at times if there's too much green in there in particular. So this last season, I've got a fantastic crew. The season before, I had to fire 2 crews. And fortunately, we've got an excellent crew now. We pay a lot of money for our harvesting, but require that they only pick the red cherries or the perfect peak ripe cherries. And then we get them to come back frequently, about every 3.5 weeks, to pick more rounds or the next round of coffee. So that has a huge influence. I mean, I can tell the difference, and I'm not a very sophisticated cupper at all. But it makes a huge difference to only have ripe cherry. The underripes tend to add to the bitterness and sourness of the coffee and so forth. So we try to minimize that or have none, and if we can at all help it.
Yeah, it's interesting, like hearing you talk about that. Like we, here in Oregon, we obviously don't grow coffee, but we do produce wine. And the wine, when I hear my friends in the winemaking industry talk about harvesting the grapes, it just, they go and harvest the grapes, and it's like a week or 2 period, and they just pick them all, and it's so much more work having to just select those ripe red cherries, and it's got to be massively more expensive, like you were saying, to bring them back week after week to get that particular fruit that you need to create such good coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's worth it. I mean, here I am.
Yeah. What have been some of your challenge, or what have been some of the challenges that you faced, like growing coffee in the time of COVID? Like, how has that changed things for you?
It really hasn't affected the farmers at all that I'm aware of, because, you know, we're outside. It's all outdoors. So the workers, you know, it's all outside. So there's no extra precautions that we have to take. It's usually phone calls, coordinating them to come, and you know, the available resources for them to work in the field and that sort of thing. So it really hasn't affected us. We did see when COVID first hit, our tourism stopped, and we have coffee tours here at our small farm. Tourists come up and we show them around and roast coffee for them, and they buy a bunch of coffee. It's been wonderful. But that just came to a screeching halt when COVID hit. But we saw our web sales pick up. It picked up about 15 or 20% immediately because all the coffee shops are closed. More people home brewing. So actually, those of us that retail coffee directly, it's helped. I hate to say.
Huh, interesting.
But to a lot of the industry, there has been a big, you know, economic hit as a result. A huge proportion of Hawaiian coffee does get sold to tourists within Hawaii, and you know, those that are selling, you know, green coffee to roasters that sell in Hawaii, or that sell largely to, you know, to specialty shops or stores or gift stores in Hawaii. I mean, that business is largely, you know, for a large portion of 2020, just completely stopped.
Wow. Crazy. I mean, so, you know, being from the mainland and desperately wanting a vacation, like, are you guys doing tours again on your farm? Can I, like, when can we come? When is it safe for us to come visit?
In the last couple months, they've kind of had a soft opening, allowing tourists to come if they get a negative COVID test within the 72 hours before the flight. So there's been a lot of people, not a huge amount, but I mean, there's people showing up in Kona, in Hawaii, on vacation. So, and then more of the other farms in Kona, or less of the farms, are open. There's a lot of other not a few other farms that do coffee tours. So a lot of them are just kind of gave up, or they have had employees to do the tours. So they're not open. They don't want to do that because there's not enough tourism. Well, for here, it's my wife and I that give the tours. And just in the last 4 weeks, Kat helps out a lot too. So we're the only ones that show open, us and I think 2 other farms. So we're getting a fair amount coming by, especially on the weekends.
Cool. Awesome.
It's fun. You know, our motivation for the tours is to sell our coffee and make money.
Yes.
That's the honest answer. But it's so rewarding because we get to meet people from all over the world. And we, you know, show them our where we live and our farm and how we process the coffee and roast the coffee for them. And it's just a wonderful experience, sharing our enthusiasm and excitement. And then they buy our coffee, and then they'll order more later, kind of establish a rapport with them.
Well, I hope everyone that's going to watch this will come and visit you.
Yeah. Fun.
So I want to wrap up. I have 3. We always end these interviews with rapid fire questions. They're just kind of fun and cheesy. I've got 4 of them that I'm going to ask you guys real quick before we wrap up. And the first one is top 3 foods you can live without. So least favorite foods, 3. Or 1. I don't really care.
Squash. Squash. Brussels sprouts. What else? Liver.
Yeah, that's a plate right there.
I'll take the Brussels sprouts and liver. That sounds good. Let's see, celery. It's just I like almost everything, so it's tough to think of many things.
Bad coffee, right, Miguel?
Bad, yeah. I still drink bad coffee sometimes.
Okay, so the next one is, if you could have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
Thought about it.
I mean,
add a few more hours to the day.
What was that?
Add a few more hours to the day.
That's a good one. Yeah, you're already an award-winning coffee farmer, so what more superpowers do you need?
There you go.
And then the last one is, if you were a coffee drink, what coffee drink would you be?
Okay, I think I did already.
Cup of SL34 from Kona Farm Direct.
Yes. Miguel?
Probably just the cupping bowl.
Okay. Cool. Thank you guys for indulging me with the rapid fire questions. Craig, Miguel, I appreciate your time. And, I appreciate this coffee. It's delicious. I can't wait to see the auction results for it. I hope people bid it up. I can't wait to, order it from whoever buys it and drink a cup of it. Yeah.
We really hope that people are excited about these. I mean, I'm sure they'll be very different than Hawaiian coffees that most roasters have ever tasted, and hopefully a good demonstration of what we can potentially do with yeast. This is not everything, but similar results could be achieved in a lot of places.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
Amazing work, you guys. And I hope to talk to you both in person very soon.
All right, we'll see you here.
Welcome anytime.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.